not going to be able to make it, but we've got our presidents from Florida Gulf Coast, Central Florida, North Florida, Florida State, University of South Florida.
Saludos amigos de tampahoy.com, mi nombre es José Ángel Acevedo y en estos momentos estamos viendo al gobernador de Florida, Ron DeSantis, desde la Universidad de Florida en Gainesville, platicando sobre educación. Escuchemos.
A lot of Floridians will be able to enjoy those games, and hopefully we get positive results. Certainly here would be really nice to be able to beat Texas in the swamp. We're here today for a very simple reason. For 10 years in a row, Florida has been ranked #1 in public higher education in the United States of America. And there's a lot that's gone into that, but maybe the thing that I'm most proud of is if you look at what it costs to go to our state universities as a Florida resident, the tuition is exactly the same as it was the day I took office. There's been no increases in tuition for our Florida residents. And we also, and I've been a big supporter of the Bright Future Scholarship Program. So if you're somebody who is a Florida high school student, Florida resident, and you get into the University of Florida, chances are, if you're able to get in here, you qualify for Bright Futures, or you certainly have a chance to if you meet some of the other non-academic criteria. And that gives you 100% tuition or 75% depending on the level that you're doing. So if you're a strong student in Florida and you end up here in Gainesville, for example, it's very possible that you never have to pay anything for tuition. But even if you do, tuition is manageable such that you could work a part-time job. You really do not need to take out loans to go to our state universities as Florida residents. And in fact, right now, 77% of undergrads in Florida are loan-free. And that continues to increase year after year. One of the things that I really enjoyed being a part of, and I think we've done it now twice, we've had for many years now the Florida prepaid college program. And so you can start when the baby's born, right? You can pay in, you pay a little bit, and then basically when it comes time for Johnny or Susie to go to college, they're able to just go. The tuition's been paid for. And so it really is a good deal. But, what happened was they were doing that, forecasting that there would be modest increases in tuition, right? I mean, and that's probably a safe assumption. Well, because the tuition has remained flat, they've actually refunded our prepaid families with money. So you did prepaid, you're getting a check back, and your kid can still go tuition free. So I was really proud of that. I know that was something that was I think the first one was in like 2021 when you really started to see an inflation nationwide take off. And I think we did another one in the last couple years. But you're talking about a really significant amount of money that's been refunded to parents in prepaid. And I would offer you this to ponder. If a state like New York or Illinois or California was in a situation where they were sitting on that money, do you think that they would refund that to you? No, I don't even think we have to discuss that. So being able to afford a high quality education is really important because we've seen a generation of students that have been saddled across this country with really, really debilitating amount of debt. And I think part of it was cultural. When I was in going to school in Florida as a high school kid in the 90s, they were saying you got to go to college, otherwise, you're just not going to be able to be successful. And we're proud of our universities, but we also have apprenticeships, state colleges. There's a lot of ways you can be successful. And so I think what happened was people were told they had to mortgage their future just to get a piece of paper. Well, that piece of paper needs to mean something, right? If the piece of paper is
Estamos escuchando al gobernador Ron DeSantis hablar sobre las matrículas de las universidades y los costos que los padres han estado pagando durante muchos años para preparar a sus hijos durante la aventura universitaria. En estos momentos, el gobernador Ron DeSantis se encuentra desde la Universidad de Florida en Gainesville hablando sobre cómo el Estado está trabajando para bajar esos costos educacionales para los estudiantes de todo el Estado. Y él dice que en comparación con diferentes estados, este estado va a estar ofreciendo, en este caso Florida va a estar ofreciéndole a los jóvenes nuevas alternativas para poder ser exitosos en las universidades. Sin embargo, hay muchas diferentes opciones que los jóvenes han podido eh, llevar a cabo para ser exitosos. Así que tener unos estudios pagados no es realmente algo que te lleva a ser exitoso, y es por algo que el estado de Florida está trabajando para darle a los jóvenes o a las personas que quieran estudiar una opción de tener educación completamente accesible económicamente, y no necesariamente tener que pagar, como quien dice, un mortgage a esas personas que tienen ya estudios pagándolos muy caros. Sin embargo, está diciendo que el Estado está trabajando para que esos costos bajen y los jóvenes no se vean obligados a estar pagando altos precios por sus estudios, y que los padres que ya han invertido durante años para hacer cuentas únicas para sus hijos y esos estudios estén pagos, ya ese dinero también lo puedan disfrutar entre ellos, porque en la generación pasada ese era el pensar, que los estudios iban a ser más caros, pero sin embargo Florida está buscando la manera de bajar esos costos. Así que sigamos escuchando qué dice el gobernador de Florida en esta conferencia de prensa desde Gainesville en la Universidad de Florida.
Sociology was. So we're trying to focus on the things that really matter. A good, solid education really should be timeless in many respects. These are enduring ideas that you're discussing, that you're learning about, and we've really worked hard to be able to do that. And I'm proud of that. One of the things that we did was recognize that, okay, we want to make sure that we are bringing in very bright people to be able to teach students, but that's about really fulfilling the core mission of the university. It's not, some tenured professor just has their own agenda and are doing activism and things like that. Like, if you want to do that, you can do that on your own time. We're not going to underwrite that as the state of Florida. And certainly there are universities that have a different posture than we want our universities to have. I mean, Berkeley, some of these others, they have a much different posture, and that's fine. But here we want to focus on what really matters. And so, we instituted reforms on post-tenure review so that tenured professors have to undergo review every 5 years, and they can be terminated for poor performance. And I think that that's important because, the idea of getting tenure is so that you can challenge orthodoxy, express, ideas that may not be, consistent with the herd. I mean, during COVID, quite frankly, you saw people like Jay Bhattacharya at Stanford contesting some of the things that were coming out of NIH and Fauci and all that. Honestly, he was right. Very unpopular, particularly in that area. He was tenured, so they couldn't fire him just because he had a different view. But if you are neglecting teaching, neglecting good research, not being productive, there's opportunities for us to bring in some great people, and we've been able to do that. And, the university presidents have more power now to bring in and recruit. We put in hundreds of millions of dollars over the last few years to be able to recruit faculty. And I just look here at the University of Florida at the Hamilton Center. I mean, you're bringing in people from Harvard and Princeton and all these places to come to the Hamilton Center because I think you're offering, a great intellectual environment. But more importantly, you're able to offer them, give them good compensation, and they're in a great spot. So I think that's been really, really important. And I know our university leadership have been using that tool to be able to improve the faculty. We've also made sure that, and I think this thing like we've seen, so we have an institute at Florida International Adam Smith Center. And really it's, I think almost anyone that's ever been a head of state in Latin America that has any type of free market orientation has ended up speaking at the Adam Smith Center since it's been launched. You look here at the University of Florida, the Hamilton Center, as I mentioned, you're bringing in people from places that we would not have thought, 5 or 6 years ago that would have been doable. But I really believe that Hamilton, with what they've already done here, they're on their way to being the premier center for the study of citizenship, civics, and Western civilization in the entire country. And in fact, I was talking to a esteemed professor in Princeton who kind of started the movement with this, Robbie George. Like, everyone's going to Florida now. Like, it's hard to keep people. So that's really, really positive. But I think that those centers, and I know Florida State has one, I know they're working on, and then of course, Richard Corcoran New College. I mean, their whole college is really geared around classical liberal arts and making sure that we're preparing people with a foundation to be good citizens. But this is something, I think students, there's so much nonsense that gets spewed out there, social media, different stuff you hear, fads, this. I think people have a hunger for things that are really enduring and really true. And, we're here with studying things like the Western canon. This stuff matters. It stood the test of time. I think that's why these programs get a lot of interest from the students, because I think they kind of intuitively know, what, this really, really matters. This is something that's really significant. So I want to applaud everybody that's been involved in all of those endeavors. I think it's really, really important to be able to do that. So we have number one system for higher education. And then that's 10 years in a row. We have a record-breaking 7 institutions in the top 100 public universities throughout the United States of America.
Ahora el gobernador de Florida está diciendo los récords que tiene el estado en cuanto a la educación que ofrece a los estudiantes universitarios.
But this is something that is, and you see the improvement in year after year with all of these different schools. So University of Florida has been our top-ranked public university for many, many years. It's one of the top, usually ranked 25, 30th of universities, period, including the private universities. And I think that's only going to get better. And I'll tell you, I've noticed a difference just as governor. My first year as governor, this was 2019. If I'd be talking to people in other regions of the country, their view of kind of education in Florida, it wasn't an accurate view, but their perception about higher ed, whether it's here or others, was probably not as positive as it is now. But you have seen the change. And part of it is some of these other universities have done a lot of bad things, but part of it is people are now being exposed to more and more about the good things that you're doing. And a lot of times people will say, heck, why would I want to put up, with the nonsense that's going on in this university, that you can go to Florida and you're going to do very well. And I will say, all of our universities, when you had all those the disturbances on the campuses, you didn't see that. No one got away with that here. You can say and believe what you want, and you can express views, but when your conduct is outside of acceptable behavior standards. I mean, I remember Richard Corcoran at New College. This was a couple years ago, I think, or maybe last year. They had a commencement, and they had a great speaker, and you had a handful of students. You're just screaming and trying to disturb it from everyone, and he disciplined them. I mean, that's really what needs to happen. It's like, you have a right to have your views. If we have a speaker on campus, you don't shout them down. You don't create disturbances so that they have to cancel an event. You have to be willing to have an exchange of ideas, but you have to behave yourself. And I think on some of these university campuses, it's like the inmates run the asylum because no one ever gets held accountable for anything. And in Florida, that was not. I think it was Florida State, and President McCullough can correct me. I think they tried to take over the lawn, and like 10 minutes later, they just turned the sprinklers on, and those guys got off that lawn very quickly. And that's really, and so I think when parents see that in Florida and beyond, and they see, what, these are positive environments, and they're not going to devolve into some of the things that we've had. I think that's been good. University of Florida. I mean, I remember we came here, and you had all these people, and it's interesting. a lot of the people that were creating most of the problems were not actually even students. It's kind of like, these are kind of like professional agitators that they just come. Well, for heaven's sakes, we definitely can't let them run the institution. And so all the universities here in Florida did a very good job in that. And that was in stark contrast to so many of the others. So University of Florida, helped lead the way on that. And we really appreciate all that they've done. They are #1 public university in the nation for graduating students on time, which I think is also important, right? Of course, when I was, going to high school in the 90s, people that I knew would, go away to college, and they would say, yeah, I may do that. I'm going to do 4.5 years because I want to stick around for another football season because, he had a chance to win another national championship, SEC, whatever. I guess we're focused a little bit more on just getting you out now, which is good. I think it's positive. So 4 years and out is really, really positive. And they have the lowest net cost of public universities, and impacting salary performance after graduation is rated by the Wall Street Journal. And now look, the higher ed, we want it to be meaningful. We think that there are certain things that, from like a liberal arts perspective, that just citizens should have, but we also want you to be able to graduate here and apply that in various fields. And so you look, engineering, business, all these other things, that matters. And I think our university has done a really good job on that. University of South Florida, top 50 public university in the United States, up 2 spots from last year. One of the top values in public education, higher education, and then also one of the top 20 most innovative schools in the nation. And they're doing a lot on like cybersecurity. They're doing a lot on environment and some of the projects that we've really put a lot of time and money on in Florida. And they're doing a lot in medical and research. And we were just there last week with the First Lady profiling that. And obviously in a part of the state that's grown very significantly over the last particularly 5 years, but really over many, many years. And hopefully we got new ownership on the Tampa Bay Rays, and hopefully that gets settled in a way that's going to be even better for the community going forward. But I'm happy to thank University of South Florida. I know there still may be some soreness here in Gainesville for the football game between those two, but I'll just let sleeping dogs lie on that. I'm not gonna get into that. Florida Atlantic University made its debut in the top 100 public universities this year. So congratulations. So Adam Hasner was put in as president this year. I think he's doing a great job. I think there's a lot of possibilities for Florida Atlantic University. That being in Boca Raton, that's in a county, Palm Beach County, that is really seeing a lot going on in that county. I mean, I think that the amount of wealth that's migrated there over the last 5 or 6 years is really unprecedented. They have an opportunity to capitalize on that and continue to provide even better educational opportunities for their students. And I mentioned Marva Johnson, who you're going to hear from. FAMU is one of our top 100 public universities, and it's rated the #1 public HBCU in the entire United States. Florida International, as I mentioned, the president, Jeanette Nunez, wasn't able to make it because of flight complications, but they are also a top 50 public university, number 48 amongst public universities, and #1 in the nation for upward economic mobility. They've done a great job of giving people, particularly down in Miami-Dade County, great opportunities. I mean, I think it had traditionally been considered more of a commuter school, but that's changing, just like it changed at USF. I mean, USF, when I was a kid, was commuter. And so you have that, and then that's another part of the state that's really, really picking up, and a lot's going on there. So Jeanette has been in now probably for about 6 months and has done a really, really good job. New College of Florida, led by President Richard Corcoran. This is an interesting thing because this is a small liberal arts college in Sarasota. And I must confess, I ran and got elected governor of the state, and I had never heard of it before. And I remember my first year as governor, one of the legislators came to me and they're like, I want to talk about new college. I'm like, why do we need any new colleges? We've got enough. Like, no, new college. And they started telling me about it. And, it was just an awkward thing because it's like beautiful campus, like right on the water. And so, just a spectacular. But it was in statute supposed to be our top honors college in the state of Florida, but they didn't have grades. It was like beatnik, very, very politicized, all this stuff. The enrollment had shrank, the test scores had gone down. And so, we were in a situation where, okay, what are we going to do? So, we overhauled the board. The board selected Richard to come in and to be the president. And, the thing is like, when it's a smaller school, I think you can make changes more quickly. He's made dramatic changes. And now your enrollment is as high as it's been in a long time, right? Ever. The highest enrollment ever. And the test scores are going up. But new college is like, if you want classical liberal arts, if you want the type of education that like the founders of this country had, where you're really studying great books and all that stuff, the new college is a great thing. And, there's other colleges that try to do that around the country, like Hillsdale up in Michigan. And I know a lot of those guys and they're good. But I would just say to parents nationwide, would you rather visit your kid in January in Michigan or Sarasota? I'd rather visit Sarasota. So I appreciate everything that he's done. Florida Polytechnic, Devin Stevenson, #1 regional public college in the South for 5 consecutive years. #2 regional college among both public and private universities. #3 best value public schools in the South. And Devin was one of our state college presidents, and he's been there relatively short amount of time and has really helped pick that up, and it's been very, very good. Florida State University, I know we have President McCullough is here. This has been consistently a top 25 public university, up 2 spots from last year. Number 13 public university in the nation for first-year experiences. And really, I think, I just remember when I was growing up, getting into these places was not really considered something that was difficult. It's not easy to get into Florida State or Florida for that matter. These are much more competitive, and you've got a lot of interest in doing that, and I appreciate everything that's been done. University of Central Florida, number 57 nationwide, up 4 spots from the previous year. I know we have President Cartwright here. That's another interesting opportunity because you're in a part of the state there in Central Florida where there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in medicine. There's a lot going on in things involving defense and aerospace. They've got a great relationship with the Space Coast of Florida, feeding in. In fact, we were at the air show. They do an air show every 1 year in Paris, the next year in England, and they rotate. And governors go. I had never gone before, so this was the first year I had gone. And it's like every single company in the world that's involved in this space is there. It's unbelievable. But, we were working with, one of the defense companies, and they have like a pipeline from UCF, into their operations, and not just limited to the Space Coast. They'll hire them all over. So that's huge opportunities. Those are really good jobs for that. And I saw one of my staffers, Grace. She came to campus here with her UCF pin on. I told her don't let people see, but there's a lot of opportunities there. And then West Florida, led by interim president Manny Diaz, number 6 for regional public universities in the South, and that's up 4 spots. He's just gotten in within the last few months, but he's made a lot of changes. And I think you're going to see a lot there. So West Florida's out in Pensacola. Sometimes doesn't get as much attention as it should. But I think under Manny's leadership, you're going to see more and more. And they have a lot of opportunities, too. That's one of the best military communities in the United States of America, both for active duty and for veterans. And they have a lot of programs where there's a lot of great common cause there. So all in all, I think we can say job well done to everybody that's been a part of this. There's a lot more that we want to do. I want to continue to see programs like the Hamilton Center flourish. I think it's important. I want to continue to see a focus on things that really, really matter. I love hearing about the engineers being produced. I love hearing about what they're doing, in some of the other sciences, and business is important. There's a lot of things that are important, really focusing on that and continuing to build great opportunities for our students going forward. So we've got a lot of momentum, but we've got a lot more to do. We've had a lot of support over the years with the Florida legislature providing funding. We had support this year, generally speaking, but I definitely think there's some more that can be done. I really believe allowing the universities to recruit faculty and giving them a pot of money to try to recruit some of the best folks in the country. I think it's really, really important. I think it's been used. I think it's been used very well. I think some of these places have been able to attract some good folks. And look, at the end of the day, there's only so much that you can do to pay somebody to come, right? But when we're sitting on a massive surplus, honestly, I'm cutting all these tax. We don't have income tax. We just got rid of our business rent tax. We've taken all these sales tax holidays and made them permanent. So disaster relief. Now this storm looks like it's going to have, maybe some tangential impacts, but it's really turning east. And who knows? We're not out of hurricane season yet. So if you do need those hurricane supplies, those are tax-free. We've made permanent our back-to-school sales tax holiday. We've done all these different things. Baby items, totally tax-free now in the state of Florida. I didn't actually enact that till my youngest got out of diapers. I could have saved myself a lot of money had I done that a few years earlier. So we do that. And so we're like, man, and yet we have big surplus. Our rainy day fund, so when I became governor to now, we've more than tripled the state's rainy day fund. And that is, so we're now at the point where constitutionally, we're not allowed to put any more into the rainy day fund. So you have a maxed out rainy day fund. Then you have a lot of other surplus revenue, general revenue, trust fund revenue, all this other stuff, that's there. And we've had, and honestly, we had such a big one a few years ago. We did more tax cuts. We did the road projects and accelerated those. You guys will see some of that if you're on 75 around Ocala where it gets bottlenecked. We accelerated. That's going to be done 10 years ahead of schedule. It wasn't supposed to be even started till the 2030s. It's do people want to sit in traffic for another 15 years? So they're working on that, and they're accelerating. We put billions of dollars. So we're happy to do that. But the point of it is just, we're in great shape fiscally. I've never been an advocate of just spending money to spend, but if we have an opportunity to empower our universities with an ability to continue to attract really good people, I think that's really positive. So we did that for a couple years. We didn't really get the support on that in this most recent session, but I'm hoping next year that they're able to do that. And so some of the people in this room may have something to say about that as you talk to the folks that are around there. So I'm excited. I'm thankful for everyone's hard work. We're going to hear from some of our speakers. And so as I mentioned before, Dr. Donald Landry is the new interim president at the University of Florida. He was the dean of the medical school at Columbia for, I think, 20 years. He was the physician-in-chief at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, which is a major hospital. And if you look at what happened under his tenure, massive increase in NIH grants, massive increase in ranking, everything. So he produced really, really good results just as somebody leading all this. But then in his own career, some of the things that he's been able to do, I don't know if he's got patents, he's got all this stuff. Really, really significant. And he's even been recognized by President George W. Bush during that era for all that he's done. So I think we're really fortunate to be able to have somebody of his caliber here.